And what's happening out there? Yes, it is 4:20, but not here in Ireland. It's 9:20, guys, and good evening to you all. But it is 4:20 over there in New York, Washington, Boston, Puerto Rico, apparently, St. Thomas, Campo Grande, Toronto, Detroit, Montreal. So happy 4:20 to all y'all over there in those places. Be great if anybody from those places and in the hot box say hi. Hopefully, we might get an old New Yorker pop in there, a regular of the show. Shout out to Bobby, and a big shout out to everybody else over there in the 24/7 hot box on Telegram. Sugar. I'm just realising there now is I just rolled up two tubes to get the show on the road, but then I just looking and I was like, sure, I forgot to put some hash into them. Oh, well, look, that's if that's the worst thing that's happened to me today, I've had a pretty good day. And it probably is by far the worst thing that's happened to me today, so happy days. Hope everybody else out there has had a good day, and if not, hopefully you've got something nice there to blow all those troubles away. Who's out there in the hot box anyway? We just pop on over there to YouTube, get this opened up, and we get a proper look at the comments coming in. And for some reason, that doesn't actually come through proper here on the. Oh, it does actually. Warp Addict, what's happening? Daily Talker, what is happening out there? Warp Addict says roll it there. Friendly grower out there as well. Hi all. Hope you're all well. Why is this? Boom. There we go. That looks much better now. Sorry guys, the Streamlabs desktop app here was being a bit all over the place, but just quickly reorganised it now. See your comments coming in good and proper. Humble Gardener is out there as well. Good evening, Humble Gardener. Says a fine SR Martin for hosting. Nice one. Fine hour, I'd imagine that is. Yeah, the quick fingers there. I actually had only one of these rolled, and I was like, I'll get another one thrown together before the 420 rolled in. And yeah, the 60 seconds came up, and I was like, I can do it. And just as we came to the 420, I was just rolling it. I won't lie, didn't have it licked, didn't have it sealed, but as the intro was being done, I got it done. So just over a minute to get it now doobie rolled up, and a good quality one as well. Let's get the hash tray out and ready. Who else is out there? There's our New Yorker. What is happening out there, Bobby? Says just grabbed a zip of some Larry Burger. Ah, do rub it in. Do rub it in. And thanks, Bobby, for all that nug porn that comes into the hot box, and also to all the other guys out there and girls who send in those lovely, lovely photos. Patrick Shields, what's happening? 420 Talker says, hi Martin, did we finally get legalization? Not quite, but we finally get some good news here on 420 News. So you've all probably seen it there over the last, 24, 48 hours. But we have been following the Oireachtas committee, and that was going on over the last 8-10 weeks or something along those lines. But finally they've released an interim report, and as I said, finally we have some positive news to cover on 420 News. But we'll just talk a little bit more, and we will roll on over to that good news. That's where we'll start the show today, thank God. It's probably the first time in a long time that we've actually started a show or even just had any good news really to report on here. But hopefully it's the start of a new trend. Hopefully we'll start seeing a lot more positive news roll in. So fingers crossed. Mark, what's happening? He says, night Martin and happy 420 everyone. Getting an early night at Mark, yeah, hitting the hay. Sleep well anyway if you are. Good night, dude. Bobby says, y'all fellas been winning that knock porn game. That Falcon Heavy looks special. Yeah, exactly. We wouldn't been able to do it without those genetics, but yeah, certainly there are some tremendous, absolute tremendous growers here. I can't wait till we actually do see some form of legalization, decriminalization, so these growers can actually realize their full potential. Because if this is what they're doing when they have to like hide and like be a bit restrictive about what they're doing, good lord, when they are actually able to like be free of that burden of prohibition and just really explore their abilities, it's going to be something a sight to behold. I do look forward to it. Oh, what are we talking on here? Actually, we have again some quicks from Exotic Genetics, um, locally grown, freshly grinded, and it is delicious. We're enjoying it actually this evening, and some G rolls. Green screen here playing havoc, but Cheech and Chong, you probably see him there on the cover. Excuse me. Sourced here locally in Cork as well, but apparently they're made over in Holland. These ones in particular, they're organic hemp, chlorine free, non GMO, and they're vegan friendly too, guys. Is there skins that actually aren't vegan friendly? Like, what in a skin would be like unvegan? I've never thought of that before, like, but I've seen it on a couple of skins now recently, and it's just like, anybody out there, can you enlighten me? What in rolling papers is not vegan friendly? Because when you think about it, really, like if the paper, like hemp is probably maybe because they don't chop down any trees. Uh Bobby says I think it's when they bleach them. Yeah, but is bleach like, can't vegans eat bleach? I think nobody can eat bleach. But like, yeah, what's bleach made of? Like, that's just like chemical based, isn't it? It's not made of animals. Yes. Daily Toker is smoking on the a dodgy haze that literally came in the bottom of a large bin bag, wrapped up into a ball. Ah, I know the one. Unfortunately, Daily, I actually have a, a jar similar to this jar. And what's in this? What's it? It's the end of some chocolate tangy, actually, a few little crumbs. But I have a jar like this for the last time I've got some of that dodgy haze. I was all out, and a buddy of mine who I hadn't got anything off of before, and he said he has some nice haze. So I was like, all right, I hadn't had haze in a while, chance it. But ah, man, it was just a bag of disappointment, really. And same crack, it came like wrapped up, and I mean wrapped up in cling film. There was probably enough cling film there, like for a couple of weeks worth of dinners. He used the entire roll, I'd say, just to wrap up. What was it, about a half ounce or something? Oh, it was mad. It was a long time since I actually had gotten weed wrapped up in like cling film. Because anytime you're dealing with growers and things like that, they're always a lot more careful about how they will give it out, you know? Um, they just don't wrap it up in cling film. At least that's not my experience with the growers I've met anyway here. Friendly says, it is Bobby. It's firmly has me tucked up in bed. Beautiful plant grown by highly skilled members of the hot box. Yeah, I'll second that, man. We got definitely some highly skilled members out there. And yeah, I'll also second that, Humble. It does sound like something from Dublin for Daily. That dodgy haze. But I think that's just something that's ubiquitous all over the island of Ireland, unfortunately. Right, shall we get a crack in here? As I said, we do some positive news to start with, for a change, and that positive news is going to come. We're going to start over on the Crown X page. So the guy's done a pretty good job, in fairness, in covering the report. So they have a news piece that's up on their website. So you can find this over on crown.com, CRAINN.com. And is it up there for you? Yeah, excellent. Basically, they say that the headline is Committee Calls for Decriminalisation and Cannabis Regulation. So the Oireachtas Drugs Committee, which, as I said, it just recently convened their meetings. They called for the repeal of the Section 3 of the Misuse of Drugs Act 1977. And they say here a move which is, if enacted, would remove criminal sanctions for the simple possession of drugs for personal use. So basically, this what I'm doing here right now, which is currently illegal, that would no longer be a criminal act. So basically, this benign behaviour that you're seeing here, that's no danger to anybody at all. Like the most dangerous thing here about it is the fact that I'm smoking it. Probably, you know. Should probably have the volcano in here getting active with that, but that bag makes too much noise, interferes with the mic, so that's my excuse for keep combustion going. But anyway, the Crown guys go on to say, in a report published today by a cross-party committee of both houses of the Oireachtas, which was established by the Government Chief Whip Minister Hildegard Naughton in response to the Citizens' Assembly on Drug Use. The committee's report states the committee recommends that steps are taken to introduce a regulatory model for certain drugs. To be fair, from my reading of it, which I haven't done extensive reading of it, it seems like they're only calling for a regulatory model for cannabis. They talk about a regulatory model for other drugs, but it seems like they want to start with cannabis to just get a feel for it, to try to get a backbone, some sort of I would just say a blueprint for them to follow with other drugs if it works for cannabis. But I don't know, is that the right approach? Because like they're treating cannabis different to alcohol. Like, you know, shouldn't they take a different approach to other drugs in that sense? Like, should you be able to just walk in and like, would they have cocaine social clubs? You know, think about it. Like, and I'm not against cocaine or anything saying like that. It's just how it's dispensed. Would it be the same? Should it be the same? Is kind of what I'm saying. But anyhow, the committee recommends this should be considered with particular reference to Spain, Malta, and Germany in the development of an Irish not-for-profit regulated cannabis market. Now, this is something we've been saying for a long, long time. They've never really listened to us as campaigners here, but thankfully, look, after time, they've after much expenditure in terms of our resources here, money which could have been put to so much better use, you know, the Oireachtas Drug Committee, the Citizens' Assembly, the Justice Committee, you know, all of these committees that they're putting together and forming these reports, and then the reports are sitting there, no action taken, and it's, you know, we're so far away, we're years down the line, you know. And they've known that this is something that's been needed for a long time. You know, go back to 2013 to Gino Kenny's, or not Gino Kenny, geez, forgive me, Luke Ming Flanagan, who's now an MEP over there in Europe representing the Irish people. Fair play to him. But it was back then in 2013 he was pushing for the government to end the criminalisation of cannabis. So, like, Jesus, we're 11 years away from that. Like, so many committees have been put together, reports made, and again, nothing happening. Now this report comes out, and let's hope something actually comes of it. That it's not just more wasted time, effort, money. You know. But anyhow, Gina Kenny, the chair of the committee, speaking today, said of the report. He said today the Joint Committee on Drug Use published its interim report and makes a number of key recommendations and carefully considers the Citizens' Assembly's findings. He continues to say that some of the main points are repeal Section 3 of the Misuse of Drugs Act, not-for-profit regulated cannabis market, and the reports call for a full repealing of Section 3 of the Misuse of Drugs Act will give effect to decriminalisation. This move would fundamentally change the dynamic of Ireland's drugs policy, making it a legal act to possess a small amount of drugs for personal use. Now, what this small amount is, that's still to be defined, but still nonetheless, like, this is a really positive piece of news. It would also have a profound impact on the practice of stop and search for personal drugs possession. Because what they're referring to here is basically the Section 3 of Misuse of Drugs Act is being abused. You get stopped by the guards, they're basically going to say, "Oh, we think you have some drugs on board, so we're going to search your car." But meanwhile, like, well, what gives them that suspicion? You can't question them, you know, if they come up and say, "Oh, we suspect," you know, because you're acting suspiciously. you know. It's the guard's word against yours, and then the full power to like get you out of the car, search your car, which they shouldn't really have the power to do that. If you've not done anything illegal, if they've not any real reason to suspect that you're actually doing something illegal, they shouldn't be able to stop and search you, interfere in your freedom of travel, basically, interfere with your right of privacy. So again, many of the things that I'm been standing up against with my cases here, and my civil disobedience. But it goes on to say anyway that the committee stated that legislators should address the issue of stop and search practices, which currently may use addiction and drug use as a means to uncover other crimes. It says removing Section 3 from the Misuse of Drugs Act 1977 could reduce this broader search capability, which is definitely much needed. Says the committee has been meeting over the past several months and has heard from international experts in the UK, Canada, Portugal, and the United States. So again, this just reflects more wasted time and effort if this report actually isn't acted upon. International experts come and speak and contribute in their time, given their time. I would imagine probably none of them been paid for that time, maybe been doing it voluntarily, possibly. Maybe not all of them, maybe some of them done it on the clock, but who knows? But I have met some amazing, dedicated people who've travelled to different conferences over the years, who would have done it off their own back, putting their own money, time, and energy into trying to see the end of this. What was a fucking inhumane policy for a long, long time, which is the prohibition of drugs. But the committee is focused anyway on a number of key areas, including the view of the Citizens' Assembly, the kinds of decriminalisation possible, health-led approaches, and family and community responses to drugs. The report includes, it's published today, and it includes 127 pages and contains 59 recommendations to government. Gino Kenny TD said of the recommendations that these recommendations and the committee's reasoned response are a step along in targeting the urgent changes needed around the drugs policy and drug use in Ireland. It says committee members are alarmed by Ireland's high rate of drug deaths, which has recently been the highest in Europe. The negative effect of drug use impacts all of society, but disproportionately affects already disadvantaged groups and communities. And I just want to correct that. Gino Kenny saying that, yeah, it's drug policy really that has negatively impacted all of society, including drug using communities and those afflicted by, what would you say, the illness of addiction and the addiction to drugs, because addiction comes in all sorts of shapes and forms, if you will. So it's just kind of, that's just something I want to occur. I would love to just pull them up on, it's not drug use impacts all of society. It doesn't. Me sitting here, how does this impact all of society? Except for me kind of trying to provoke a change out there. That's a positive change, if anything. But seriously, how has my consumption of this affected all of society? Drug use doesn't affect all of society. Drug prohibition, on the other hand, certainly does. It certainly does, because if you just think of the guards, just one example, the guards, their ineffectiveness of policing communities, that affects all of society. So it's drug prohibition. I'm sorry, I just can't finish that piece without first stopping and drawing attention to that. It's not drug use impacting all of society. It is drug prohibition, and drug prohibition alone. Because I can't think of drug use, any form of drug use, that's impacting all of society. I really, really can't. Sorry. I just, Anyhow, I should have the hot box up there, seeing your comments, but there's not much left in this, and we will get back over to the hot box and see what you're all saying. It goes on anyway to say that throughout the committee's tenure, tensions have been tensions have been at times been high between members surrounding the direction of travel Ireland should take when it comes to drugs reform. For example, Independent Senator Lynn Ruane and Sinn Féin TD Rory O'Murroch had a public row after Ruane accused Sinn Féin of speaking out of both sides of the mouth on the topic of drug decriminalisation. And she was very right in that accusation that she made, because Sinn Féin and its members are very much on the fence, and depending on who you talk to within the ranks of Sinn Féin, you could get a very different response there. which like it isn't right. They do speak out of both sides of the mouth on the topic of drug decriminalisation. It says the public debate spurred Sinn Féin's mental health spokesperson Mark Ward TD to clarify that Sinn Féin have supported the Citizens' Assembly recommendation to pivot away from criminalisation of drug use. But still, like the criminalisation of drug use, but they're still wanting, like they still spoke so illy of the drug using community and the drug users supporting drug dealers. You know that again speaking out of both sides of their mouth. Because if you're really about drug decriminalisation and wanting to support drug users, you wouldn't be like lambasting them, I suppose, like stigmatising them for buying their drugs illegally when you don't support drug regulation. But anyhow, the committee has also analysed the issue of mandatory referrals for people found in possession of drugs and found that issuing mandatory health referrals for those found in possession of drugs risks perpetuating existing harmful stigma. It will likely also draw limited health resources away from those who need them most. And again, this is something that was said immediately after the recommendations were made by the Citizens' Assembly, that this mandatory referrals to the health intervention, what a waste of time. Again, my use of cannabis right here and right now doesn't need any intervention at all. So what a waste of time that would be. Waste of money, a waste of health professionals' time again that could be put towards much better uses. While the committee's report is not binding, and that's a very important thing, it isn't binding, and there again it is something that we should remind people of right now, is that there is an election expected to be called in the coming days. It's expected very soon that an election is going to be called. The date that's been kind of tipped is the end of November. Just whipping up the calendar there again. I think the 29th of November or possibly the 22nd, both of those being a Friday, which I believe they use as polling day here in Ireland. So an incoming government, they could completely ignore these reports, the Citizens' Assembly and this Oireachtas committee, which would be, again, it'll be a real kick in the nads for everybody. Again, they talk about drug use actually impacting all of society, but this is going to impact all of society if these recommendations and reports actually aren't acted upon by the current government or the incoming government. By the current government, if they actually stay in place, they have until March to actually put some of this into policy. But if they don't, I don't think they will even do it if they remain in place until March. Like, what's that, 6 months, I think that is. I don't believe that's enough time for them to get together and actually agree on like removing Section 3, but not just removing it. They'd have to put other pieces in place, and I don't think they would do that in time before their time would actually run out in March. So yeah, fuck it. Let's bring on the election. Let's hope they call it soon. I'm going to run here in Cork North Central just to remind people. Again, I don't actually expect to get elected. I'd probably fucking have a banger if I did. I'd be shocked. But I certainly will give it my all. Make sure I get out there, represent our community as best as possible. But I will not be a single issue candidate. There's a couple of other issues there that I will be running on. And if there is other people out there in Cork North Central who want to reach out to me and have a chat with me about other issues that might need to be might need attention drawn to, might need support, you know where to reach me anyway. You can get me by email, get me by any of my social media, and I will have a number there very soon that people will be able to call me across the day and working hours. But yeah, that's just the ad in there. But it goes on to say here anyway that it is not expected that any changes in law will take place during this government's term. It is another addition to a long line of findings in support of a fundamental drug reform found during this current Dáil's term. And they include a link down here then where you can actually go on to find the full report. Again, 126 pages long. I believe there is over 50 recommendations made by the committee. I'm just going to quickly draw in on a couple of those recommendations here. So again, this is on page 11. So just to quickly go up to page 1, just the cover there of the interim report, published October 24 by the Joint Committee on Drug Use. they have a nice appendix here. It's actually a nice document. It's easy to navigate. You can click on any of these here, and it'll bring you right to it. So a handy thing to navigate. I do look forward to actually giving it a more extensive read. But as I said, page 11 here, there's a couple of pieces I want to highlight. 3, 4, and 5 recommendations. 3, 4, and 5 here. Number 3 recommends that the committee, the recommendation is that the committee calls for the decriminalisation of the person in relation to the possession of all substances for personal use, in line with the recommendations of the Citizens' Assembly. And this highlights that the goal of drug policy should be to reduce harm and eliminate stigma, both in large part caused by and exacerbated by the criminalisation of people who use drugs. So that's a very strong recommendation to be made. And I totally agree with him. Like, drug policy should, and its only goal should be to reduce harm and eliminate stigma. Like, no drug policy should be actually to eliminate use of that drug within society. Like, if people want to use that drug, like, why eliminate it? Maybe there's some reason there that those people actually want to use that drug. Why take this fucking moral high ground and eliminate it, you know? So yeah, certainly, and eliminate stigma. That's certainly something positive to eliminate. Eliminating stigma is certainly something that I will support. And I go on number 4. Then the committee recommends that Section 3 of the Misuse of Drugs Act 97 be repealed to give effect to a comprehensive health-led approach, and that is because there cannot be a health-led approach without repeal of the Section 3 of the Misuse of Drugs Act. So fingers crossed, as I said, that these recommendations are taken on board, because if that one recommendation and that one alone is taken on board, then look, fucking happy days, decriminalisation of personal use of drugs, because that's basically what this Section 3 of the Misuse of Drugs Act is. The personal use of drugs, is that's the one I've the most charges for. Not too sure how many I actually have right now. I think they said 6 or something like that. 6 charges for Section 3's personal possession of drugs. Then number 5. The committee recommends, in line with the recommendations of the Citizens' Assembly on drug use, that the decriminalisation of personal possession for personal use should apply equally to all illicit drugs. So again, I'm happy with those. As I said, I didn't get time to actually read this report in full, so I haven't actually read all of these recommendations. But in a quick browse through it using Control F to find keywords, these were some that actually I thought were important to highlight to yourselves after reading over them. Mr. Wales, rest in peace, Martin Spong. Why did you remind me? I'd kind of forgotten why I was actually smoking an old doob here. Fuck drugs, go weed, baby. All natural. No steeds, jeez. Starting to get us that as a dyslexic or something like that. I think that's when you only read, but jeez, I'm keep mixing my letters up in these words here this evening. Probably went too hard there with my buddy. The surprise visit there by a buddy a while ago, and I made some amazing fish pie. But I kind of put fish pie on the side, left it there, and we went out and we made use of the bong while it was still alive. Probably made too much use of it. Then came back and filled up in fish pie. I should probably be asleep on the couch right now. But I resisted going into a food coma to come out here to make sure we got an old 420 news in and had a bit of crack here in the hot box with yourselves. Anybody else out there? Barry, what is happening? Welcome to the hot box. Small messages there, just popping back to see what was happening. Gary's out there as well. Bareback Monster. Increase the hash in 2025. Well, there's no denying there who's behind the Bareback Monster name anyway for me. What's happening, Billy? Humble Gardener says, I've spoken to Minister Kenny back when I was raided for growing. Oddly, he's not an unideal politician to have in there. Oddly, he's not an unideal politician. That's interesting. But we shall see. You on about Gino Kenny? He's not a minister, from what I recall. But which minister you might be talking? I'm trying to think of another Kenny in there. Humble Gardener, yeah. enlighten us there who that might be. Um, Rashers, what's happening? Says don't forget to like the videos, guys and girls. Bunch of stoners. Yeah, like me, I keep forgetting to keep this thing lit. Don't you all forget to keep it lit out there, though. Mr. Wes saying that strawberry gorilla has got him effed up. In a good way, though, yeah? Nice. Coach locking. Could do with a bit of coach locking myself. This Quicks definitely delivers, but to really get that coach lock with it, an old edition of this Gorilla Blueberry isolator, that does the trick all right. Been watching a TV show with herself there lately, and I don't think I've made it to the end of any episodes lately. Maybe one night, but that's about it. Definitely drifted off every other night. Mark Anthony saying here, Sinn Féin speak out of both sides of their mouth and their heart simultaneously in respect to drugs policy. Spot on, Mark, by spot on. Our local TD here for Sinn Féin, Mr. Gould, recently put up a post there. He had some health issues, but everybody was wishing him well and wishing him a speedy recovery, which I also partook in. Opened a comment on his post, kind of. Oh, excuse you, moi. But yeah, wished him well in opening a comment, but also had to point out, he was in his post, letting people know that he's doing well. He talked about an upcoming election and about Sinn Féin and himself being all for change. But I couldn't help but point out, hey, if you were really all for change, you would have been speaking with me, because look, there's nobody more for change when it comes to drug policy here in Cork and the north side than myself, and I've been quite vocal about that, public about that, and my door was always open to anybody out there in the political world to come and have a chat with me. And if I felt represented by anybody here in Cork North Central, and again, I mean no offence to Mick Barry, I know Mick Barry runs here, and I would recommend to anybody in Cork North Central to give him a number two, but I just don't feel represented by anybody here in Cork North Central, because yeah, none of them have been open about their own like drug use, and for one sense, and if they have been, if they're not consumers, then we need consumers in there. We need somebody to represent consumers of drugs in there. Like, I make it no secret, like cannabis definitely is my drug of choice, if you even want to call it a drug. Like, would you say that about coffee? Oh, coffee is my drug of choice. Like, I see in the future, maybe in time to come, that cannabis will be seen no differently and spoken no differently to about in society than coffee is. You know, we won't look at it as a drug, in the same sense as in the same sense that we do now. You know, um, sorry, I was making a point there, and we might have totally lost it. But yeah, we'll continue with the comments there anyway. Sinn Féin, Mr. Gould. Sorry, yeah, I knew where I was going with that one. Made a point that hey, if I didn't feel represented, I wouldn't feel the need to run. He didn't reply to it. He didn't like the comment, and he didn't block me. So I will give credit where credit is due, because there's been others here in Cork North Central who'll also be running in this general election. And I will name and shame the dude. His name is jeez, feck. His name is eluding me right now. Running for that independent party. He's always on the feckin' radio. But anyhow, he blocked me. Should name them, shame them, but his name's just after eluding me. Ah, doing blazing stars. What's happening? Says just shows the parties are scared of supporting this, and give the people a vote. Yeah, they are so scared of supporting this. Fence sitters definitely to say. None of them really want to be against this as much as they were before. But certainly fence sitters are afraid to actually really get behind supporting this. B Moon says, believe Sinn Féin have voted internally and passed to officially support Canna decrim now, though. Yeah, I believe they support drug decrim now, but it's this kind of health-led approach. Like, I don't believe they're in support of regulated models. I don't believe they're in support of, say, social clubs as such. But again, I'm open to correction there. So somebody in the ranks of Sinn Féin who wishes to come and have a chat with me, I'm totally open to having a chat, but an interview. It'll be recorded and we'll get it out there to everybody. A chat with somebody from within the ranks of Sinn Féin or any political party about their position on cannabis decriminalisation or cannabis regulation. There is an election coming up, and this goes out to independents too. There's an election coming up, so here you go. There's an offer to come on here and get your name out there to Irish consumers of cannabis, supporters of drug decriminalisation, drug regulation. So anybody out there who wants to strengthen their position in this upcoming election, there's your invite. What are the chances any of them will see this though? But again, I am open to correction on that. From what I heard, it's just drug decriminalisation they support. Or it could only be cannabis decriminalisation. But from what I heard, they're not in support of any model which includes supply. Serenable says, I was dyslexic to begin with. And says, you're amazing, Martin. Nice one for the love, Serenable. DBY says, when do you think decriminalisation will happen? Well, fingers crossed we won't see 2025 end without decriminalisation happening. As I said, the lifetime of this government, it's due to end in March, but it's expected an election will be called in the coming weeks, coming days even. So fingers crossed that actually happens. And again, that will increase the chance of us seeing drug decriminalisation before the end of 2025. But again, as I say, fingers crossed, hopefully it happens a lot sooner than that. The start of 2025 would be, that would be amazing. Decriminalise first and let them think out their models then afterwards, What I really want to see now is a conversation, not about models, but a conversation about like people currently being processed through the system for being in possession of drugs. And even if they're talking about like decriminalisation of a certain amount of cannabis plants for personal use, what about people being done for that now for personal use? Like they're only grown for personal use. They didn't have a number before maybe around that, but it was personal use. I know people, personal growers, they were growing outdoors and they just caught with an excessive number of plants because, again, they were growing outdoors. They're unsure if any of these plants are actually going to make it to harvest because it's outdoors, it's Ireland, and they had quite a number of them. And they're being treated like it's a dealer, like it's a sophisticated, massive grow operation, whatever the case may be, What are we going to do with those people currently in that system? That's a conversation I'd be really interested in seeing happening. So let's see what happens in the coming months. Mad Dog, what's happening? Chilbert also out there. What's happening, Chilbert? Anybody else I'm missing? If I missed you in the hot box there, guys, my apologies. But hopefully I got everybody there in the shout-outs. Right, let's get back over to these recommendations, and we pop down to recommendation number 43. I'll pop it back up on screen here. Hopefully you can also see and read this out there. Apologies if you can't. But the committee calls on the Departments of Health and Justice to undertake a body of research into how a regulated drugs market could operate in Ireland, beginning with cannabis, and how Ireland can incorporate and implement the learnings of other jurisdictions that have taken positive steps in this regard. So again, they're not just pointing to jurisdictions within Ireland, they're actually pointing to jurisdictions outside of Ireland also, many of those across America and Canada. So they heard from many experts who came in and spoke to them from various places across America and from across Europe also. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of a model that they might recommend After again, look, they're calling on the Departments of Health and Justice to undertake the research into how a drug regulated market could operate in Ireland. How long is that going to take? Let's just hope they decriminalise first, and then they can do all the research they want afterwards. In the meantime, like, let us just be able to grow, share, enjoy, appreciate cannabis. We only saying this earlier today. The hot box over there in Telegram. It's amazing to see the love and support within that community, and it really does actually break my heart. It upsets me that any of those people within that group, there's over 100 of them there now at the moment. Again, what 30 of us are probably more regularly active within that group, but it's amazing to see the support that's within that group for each other. As I say, the love is the only other way I can express that support and love. It's there. And to see those people, any of them, to be treated like a criminal, it's just wrong. It shouldn't be happening. And it not only breaks my heart, but it fuels the engine, that's driving me here, keeping me going in this campaign to see prohibition ended. I don't want to see anybody like that criminalised out there. But as I say, it's there for selfish reasons. I didn't want to be criminalised or treated like a criminal, have that label and carry it throughout life and be less able to provide for my family, which I fucking started at an early age too. I became a dad at what was it, 3 months before my 18th birthday. I first got caught with cannabis while my girlfriend was pregnant. I had to kind of deal with that, and then first getting caught with cannabis at 17, it was a crap thing to deal with. And they treated me like an adult then, because by the time it actually came and was processed, I was 18 then, and they were like, oh yeah, you can go to court now. You're not 17 anymore. Mad. That sucked big time. Was it in the end? It was a €200 donation to the charity box. Killed me, because that was 2 days' work for me, I suppose, at the time. No, it was more. Jeez. When I think of it, jeez, I wasn't getting €500 a week back then. 17. That was like about what? That was probably about 3 days' work, maybe, just shy of 3 days' work. And it sucked. You're preparing for the baby. Well, you have a baby. I was 18 at that stage. Think about it. Like, that was a good bit ago. My campaign, I'm 35 now. Just 2 years short of 2 decades of campaigning, 20 years of campaigning. Man, 20 years of knowing Casa das Drogas. Shout out to Grams DB. And Sean Lynch also, Sean, if you're out there, man, what's happening in Hotball as well, two of the very first people that I met at the start of this campaign to see the end of cannabis prohibition, which later led to ending drug prohibition altogether, as I learned and grew as a campaigner. But geez, man, almost 20 years at this. Like, if you asked me back then, like, yeah, like a couple of years, we're going to get this. This is wrong. Like, this can't continue. How naive we were, but feck it, without that naivety, would we have continued if we knew we were going to be still sat here 20 years later? Probably not. Most definitely not, maybe, because, Jesus, that's commitment. If we knew that it was going to be 20 years, I don't know, would I have committed back then if I knew? Would have said, nah, feck it, let's just move to Amsterdam. Pack the bags, right, we're going over there. They had cars and windscreens over there too. I would have easily got a job anywhere I wanted to go fitting windscreens. That's pretty much universal. And I was good at that. But no, I chose to stay. I didn't want to uproot. At that time too, when I think about it, 2008, the recession, I'd family like that were considering leaving, that did leave later on. I've now got nieces and nephews that live in Australia because of relocation. I didn't want to leave because of fucking drug prohibition, and just as much as I didn't want to leave because of a recession. Do you know? As the song says, my heart is in Ireland. Yeah, the committee goes on to say then also in recommendation number 45, and also this is an important one for people out there listening right now. The committee echoes the recommendations from the Joint Oireachtas Committee on Justice for the expansion of medical cannabis access programme That's the committee which I contributed to, representing the Patients for Safe Access last year. And it goes on to say that to ensure that more people affected by chronic illness can access cannabis in circumstances where other treatments have failed to relieve symptoms. Again, I think that's very shortcoming, but I think, look, it's a positive step in the right direction, but I just hate that last piece where other treatments have failed. It's like, why can't cannabis be considered as a first line option, a front line option? Why is it where other treatments have failed? You know, if a person going into the doctor actually suffering with chronic pain for whatever reason it might be, and it's their first time there, it's their first time seeking medication, and they have a preference, look, can I try cannabinoids first rather than opioids? Why can't that be a reality? Why do they have to take this stigmatic, and that's exactly what it is. This is a stigmatic approach towards cannabis medicines where other treatments have failed. That needs to be removed. It's just unfortunate that it's there when they like talk so much about like eliminating stigma. Their own report actually includes stigma, and that's a, I don't know how they didn't spot that. It's a shortcoming of the report. Let's hope it's the only shortcoming I find within it. As I said, I haven't read all of it, but look, it is one I did find. There's positive within it, but also look, that is by and large a big negative part. Just for that one recommendation, let's not ruin the positive news here. This is like 99% positive. We've that one little a negative piece where they do continue to stigmatize cannabis medicines, keeping it as this backline treatment. But look, Beckon, overall, the report seems to be a massive, not step, but a leap forward for drug policy reform. So there we go. That's the coverage of the report. Just to follow up before we move completely away from the report, Gino Kenny was speaking recently in the Dial here. And he made a contribution about the report, just hoping that the report doesn't die with the next election to be called very soon. So I'm just going to replay this video here, let you listen to it while I enjoy my doob a little bit more.
Thursday, the Joint Committee on Drug Use published this report. It's an interim report. Unfortunately, there's obviously going to be a general election in the next few weeks.
Oh no!
And
for some reason, it doesn't look like the video's playing.
This has been a really, really good committee. It's been very important in terms of, looking at different models of drug policy and saving lives. This is the most important thing. And obviously, it took the Citizens' Assembly's recommendations and also our own recommendations. And there is political consensus, Taoiseach, in terms of this. I mean, I know there's a variety of views on this, but I think a lot of people have shifted in terms of their opinion, in terms of how we've got it wrong in the past. But what people will ask, what is next? We had the Citizens' Assembly, we've had this very integral report where there is consensus on doing things differently.
Thank you, Deputy Taoiseach.
Well, thanks, Deputy Kenny, and firstly just to sincerely acknowledge your own work on this and your own strength of feeling on it. And even though we don't always agree on every element of it, I fully acknowledge you're motivated by a sense of wanting to save lives and help people there. And thank you for the work that you've done on that. I think the next Dáil should try to make real progress on this. There's actually a broader debate around a health-led approach and health interventions that can be made to help people. There's a very big difference between somebody with an addiction who needs a bit of help and then somebody who is perhaps more casually using drugs on a Saturday night out in the local pub. And I think we need to understand from a policy point of view as to how to differentiate between the two.
Like, keep in mind that like, I was going to call him a colourful name there, but I won't. But keep in mind that guy who was just speaking there, Simon Harris, was Health Minister at a time when the Medical Cannabis Access Programme was being drafted. Like, keep in mind how restrictive the Medical Cannabis Access Programme is right now. We've only 50, I think there's like, I don't know, is it more, just more than or less than 50 patients with access to medical cannabis through the Medical Cannabis Access Programme in Ireland at the moment. And that was the guy who was responsible for it, like, he doesn't have a clue when it comes to cannabis or any other substances out there, really. And he was our health minister. Like, again, this is another reason why I'm going to run. Like, we can't have a policy drafted with the next incoming government without consumers there to really reflect the needs and wants of consumers. If we have a policy that's not crafted by policy makers who at least have the consumers have the air of, then the policy is it's just destined to fail or just be not very effective. So that's Gino Kenny there making these contributions to the Dáil, and hoping that the incoming government, after the election, that they actually take on board these recommendations. That there was a lot of time and effort put into them. When I think about it, there's like a lot of bad blood for that Simon Harris. To think what he made Vera Toomey go through that time, man. He robbed that woman of so much time with her daughter, man. A daughter, like, who unfortunately passed away afterwards, and rest in peace, Eva. But, oh, man, like, that just, just really annoys me, when I think about it. Like, that guy refused to actually really do something about giving access to that child to a medicine that done so much positive for her afterwards, like really helped improve the quality of her life before she unfortunately passed. And I believe it was another illness afterwards. I've not actually spoken to Vera since, and if she's out there, if she ever happens to see this, I do wish her well. Hope everything is good with her and her family. I chose not to message her and stuff afterwards. I just kind of wanted to leave her alone. And I never really knew how to follow up with a message then, after her daughter had passed. It was very hard. So I was hoping that maybe I might bump into her sometime around Cork and get to say hi actually in person rather than through message. But yeah, it just really infuriates me to think that guy sitting there in government, and he's still there. He's still there. He was the health minister responsible for that. Like, made her walk from Cork to Dublin, Wow. Hey, what's oh yeah, Humble Gardener there correcting it was TD Kenny. Yeah, I had a good chat with Gino a couple of times. We had him down here in Cork while I was a part of the SSDP. Dropped him from UCC back to the train station, so I got a bit of time alone in the car with him that evening. And I had a decent old chat with him. He's not a bad guy. Again, he's understanding of consumers and that, but like, he's definitely a guy who could have the ear of consumers. That's for sure. It's just, unfortunately, I suppose he's within a party, the people before profit. So obviously he's just one person within that party. And the party, I suppose, has a bit to go there in their position on drug policy. There's certainly a bit of shaping up that they could do within it. But Gino's definitely one of the good ones within that party anyway, that's for sure. I don't believe he's a regular consumer of cannabis. At least he wasn't that evening anyway. We had a bit of time to spare when it got to the train station, and yeah, he didn't want to partake. Chilbert says, thanks GT, great to see you both over again. Have an Xmas event in December. High Life. Oh, nice. Nice one for the heads up there. I must check that one out. Maybe you might get over to see you as well. Could do with a little trip away. Maybe make it a little business trip. Do a bit of live streaming from over there. A business trip, as if. Would be for personal trip. For pleasure reasons, that's the one. Mark Anthony, Bobby, I was told by the bus station security there that I couldn't smoke a doob today in the station, and I was pointed out that it is smoking that was allowed, and she asked me what I was smoking. So that's none of your business. You have a right to privacy, and she doesn't have a right to ask you that question. SL says, allow personal growing of a few plants and remove the fluoride chlorine from our water supply. There's a couple of guys recommending that actually, who are actively collecting rainwater. So shout out to Kyle and Ma Baker. So I believe it was the two of yourselves that are actively collecting rainwater. And I believe you're using that along with some fish tank water there as well, I believe, maybe from time to time, Kyle. But yeah, definitely getting rid of those kind of heavy metals and stuff like that out of the water supply is a positive thing to do for everybody, maybe. Um, Jeff Papalia, what's happening? Says a great mate just planting some of Chad's creations. What's happening, Jeff? Welcome to the hot box. Johnny is after joining there as well. Is that Johnny Finnegan? Oh, there he is, Mr. Finnegan. What's this happening? Mark Annie says that was in Waterford and she is smoking a vape just because she smelled that good. Yeah, she was trying to tell me I couldn't smoke a spliff. Yeah, that's understandable. But look, Mare, as long as you don't admit it's a spliff, then she can't know it's a spliff. Obviously, the smell is going to give it away. But it's like that. It's just a cigarette. Just tell her it's been gone off. There's a new kind of cigar. But seriously, if you were standing there smoking some CBD, like there's some like fine tasting and smelling CBD out there nowadays. Like if you're able to smoke a cigarette there, it's discrimination if you can't smoke your CBD there. And it's non-addictive also. Like it's got none of that addictive nicotine in there. And it definitely smells a lot nicer too, like. Oh, she asked you 6 times. Yeah, that is annoying. All right, like maybe she wanted you to share. She wanted you to go around the corner so she could ask you for a drag. Who knows? Oh yes, really enjoying this one. Again, shout out to Bobby, man. Nice one for hooking up the community with some of those genetics. This Quicks is amazing. I actually have some Chocolate Tangy inside in there that I popped the lid on earlier, and it's probably curing now for maybe about 3 or 4 months. But good lord, the sweet smell that's coming out of that jar at the moment. I'm really sad to see that it's like so low. I wish like there was a bit more inside there. I wish I was able to leave it all cure for the 3 months. But jeez, man, it's really after developing like that fine like kind of like citrusy smell. Like it's just really after coming in there. It's not it used to have a kind of a chocolatey aroma once you got into the jar. But now definitely, man, you're getting that fruitiness. And that's something I really appreciate now, being able to leave something cure for that time. And shout out to all the local growers making that possible. Jim K says secondhand CBD smoke is beneficial to all around you, I'm sure. As long as you're using vegan friendly skins, yeah? Don't you be using those non-vegan skins now, or a nearby vegan will be unintentionally consuming non-vegan products. G-rolls again available from Cork Herbal Products. Vegan friendly. Non-GMO. Rash says Irish event coming next summer. Look forward to it, Rash. I was actually chatting with another CBD owner here, a CBD store owner. I won't say names, don't want to give out slipping up any news, but yeah, there's apparently a field left being bought, an event being planned or in the process of being bought, and once secured, there's definitely going to be an event or maybe 2 or 3 next year. Who knows if the laws changed? Like there's a few people who are very well positioned, let's just say that, and fair play to them too. Mr. Finnegan, Bobby Big Buds. How's that new couple of grams you picked up there earlier, Mr. Finnegan? You were saying your man is back in stock, and you kind of got what, buy one get one free? What do you say? You got a queue for the price of a 50 bag. But how is it? How's the tolerance? 2 weeks without it, I'd imagine that the tolerance must be quite low. Blazing Stars says after a 3 month cure, my last bud is always the best. That's the worst part, isn't it? Blazing Stars. Do you know, it'd be amazing if you were able to, if you were growing your own, to be able to jar it up, but at the same time be able to go out to the local like local cannabis social club, if that's what it's going to be, the local not for profit. And hang on, we'll finish that in a second. Happy 420, Cancun, Chicago, New Salem, Bela, Rainy River, Houston, Mexico. Keep them lit, guys, if you got it, blaze them up. It's always 420 somewhere. But as I say, yeah, if you're growing your own, it would be an amazing thing to be able to go out, buy some cannabis locally that's already after being cured, that's after being looked after and it's ready, ripe to be consumed in its prime condition. While you leave your own that you've grown cure, that you're actually able to leave it in the jar, and have a couple of jars there then around the place. That was grow that I done there a couple of months ago, nicely cured. Have some friends call over and take their pick, rather than as you say, 3 months in down to your last bud, and it's like amazing. Smart. I know nothing. I'm from Tipperary. That's right, Mr. Finnegan. Play dumb, but we all know your game. Tipperary's a small place, I suppose. Tipperary itself is a big place, I suppose, but we won't say nothing about the local place that you're at. The village. Is it a village? Is that offensive calling it a village to the locals? Or do they call it a town? Right, let's drive on here. We've got a couple of more tabs open with a bit of news to get through. Gino Kenny calling for action to be taken on those recommendations, and I'll second that action. It would be great if it was actually able to be acted upon in the lifetime of this government. I don't have much hope for it, but here's a couple of reasons as to why we should. It would be great if we were able to see it. It'd be great if there wasn't an election called, for the very reason that, hey, these recommendations are very important. We're actually going to stay in government for whatever time it takes to put these into place. If I can dream in here now, but here are a couple of reasons, or as I say, reasons why the next government should put into place changes in policy that reflect those recommendations. Because, look at this, all this being found together, 360,000 worth of drugs in Dublin. This was a couple of days ago. It says Dublin Gardaí seized drugs worth 360,000 during an operation in West Dublin. In a planned operation, Gardaí from the Dublin Crime Response Team stopped a vehicle in City West County, Dublin, where they discovered 3 kilos of cannabis herb valued at 60,000. Again, once cannabis is decriminalised, regulated, guys, I know people within the hotbox community, they're local growers that share cannabis around with each other, don't charge each other for it. So the value of cannabis, it's overinflated because, again, of prohibition, the violence, the criminal gangs involved with it, they'll walk away from it once it loses its value because prohibition has gone away. So do we want to see that continue? Do we want to see things like this going on? No, we do not. We want to see cannabis regulated. We want to see it separated from these other drugs that it's been found with, such as in this situation, where it says a man in his 50s was arrested. The vehicle seized. He's currently being detained at the Garda station, again at an expense to taxpayers in the Dublin area, or in all over Ireland, the taxpayers, but he's been held at a Garda station in the Dublin area under the Drug Trafficking Act 96. Subsequent searches were conducted in the Dublin West and South Divisions. Additional controlled drugs, including cannabis resin, cocaine and cannabis herb valued at approximately €300,000, were found at a residential property in West Dublin. So again, guys, just keep in mind, you might have kids out there of your own. I know it myself. I have 4. I'm very concerned from. I've always been concerned from. They've very much been a part of the reasons I do what I've done over the last almost 2 decades, as I said earlier. But do you want your kids to be going out and if they were experimenting, say, with cannabis, to be buying it from a local drug dealer who could be also selling cocaine, who could also selling, as in our situations I mentioned on last 420 News, tablets, Smarties as we called them back in the day. Do you want that? I know I certainly don't want that for my kids. There's things I could speak about, but I'm not going to speak about. Probably get upset speaking about them. But they're not my things. They're other people's stories that I can't share. But let's just say a first-hand experience. Unfortunately, I wish I didn't. With the harmful effects of drugs like these being easily accessed from drug dealers. I'll kind of stop there before I say anything else. But kids as young as 15 being able to get freaking crack and cocaine and stuff, that just shouldn't be happening, from individuals who are going to take advantage of those young kids too. Horrible. As I said, I'll stop there before I get angry. All these drugs are now undergoing analysis by Forensic Science Ireland, and investigations are ongoing. Again, as I say, if the money was taken out of this trade because of the prohibition ending, then these criminals are going to walk away from it. Seizures like this would most likely be a thing of the past, and the analysis and all the investigations that time resources can be put actually into patrolling and keeping our communities safe from nefarious individuals. So there we go. That's just one of the reasons. And again, nefarious, dangerous individuals out there. In the next one, this potentially is one. One of those notorious gangsters, it says here. So this guy is part of, a crime family, an organised crime gang. I don't know really a whole lot about this guy, Wayne Bradley. But apparently he's offering a huge reward for info on assailants who smashed up cars outside his home. So it says Gardaí are investigating after the windows of 2 cars parked in the driveway of Wayne Bradley's home are smashed in the last week. So here's a picture of the dude smiling, wears these sunglasses. So obviously journalists. He's notorious. He's a veteran gangster to describe him as here. But they have this photo of him that looks like it's been snapped out in Dublin. Is that like at one of those Dublin buses there behind them? So some journalists getting him there. Picture Collins Courts, so obviously coming out of court at some time. Big smile on his face anyway. So veteran gangster Wayne Bradley is offering apparently a pot of gold reward for information on who smashed 2 cars outside his home. And it says in video footage shared by the gangster of the attacks, 2 males with their faces and heads covered and dressed in black are seen walking up to the driveway at his fingerless home. And it says one of the males is carrying a white plastic bag which he drops on the ground, while a second male is seen smashing the back windows of a white vehicle and pouring liquid into the car. And then the male proceeds to smash the back window of a small black car also parked in the driveway, while the other guy tries to light it. But we actually have the guy, we have the video here. So I managed to find it. Give me a second there. I just popped this off screen while I open up the old Facebook. I think there's an old message popped up there. Right. Yeah, thought that might have been a bit more personal than what it was, but anyhow. Just Messenger had popped up there in the Facebook. So this is the video that they were describing there. So this is on Wayne Bradley's personal Facebook page. So this is actually his own Facebook page. The notorious gangster. Picture there with some of his family and all of that stuff. So we'll get off of there. Don't really want to be doing that. It's a bit as bad as the media publishing people's fucking names and addresses and all of that stuff for being in court for drugs. Don't know what this dude has done in the past. But anyhow. So here we see the guys dressed in black, or maybe girls, coming in, smashing the back window of the first car. But you see what's happening here, the mistake that this person makes here. They go to smash the front window of the car. So the front window is laminated. So again, my knowledge from the window trade, that's going to be a lot harder to break. So he figures out really quick, hey, this is actually really hard. There's a bit of plastic here that keeps all the glass together, safety, so that nothing can, like if a stone hits your window, it won't shatter and the stone come in and hit you. It'll deflect off the glass and your glass cracks. That's because of plastic in between your glass. So there you go, guys. There's your useless information for today. So it doesn't work. And the other fella comes along and says, "Hey, come here, smash that window." There you go, boy. Squirts the stuff in, tries to light it, but I don't think they actually managed to light it. And I don't know if you've seen that there, but part of Ireland's dumbest criminals again fails to light it. And watch this guy running out. Yup. Takes no slip. I don't know if you know that kind of driveway that they're on. It's raining, and that's that kind of fucking. It's like really smooth. It's very slippery type of floor when it's wet. It's like almost got like a paint on top of it. I know the driveway really well. I've taken a slip, almost taken a slip or fall on them a few times. Not because I was running out after trying to smash someone's window and light the car on fire, but you know. But yeah, you see here in the post anyway. Stairs around it. We zoom in just for the crack. Large reward offered. See that there? Large reward offered. So anyone out there with information, guys, on who smashed Wayne Bradley's windows, large reward being offered. But again, notorious gangster. I don't know what this guy's past is, but you see this crap going on, like lads coming in, smashing up the cars, trying to light them on fire. I'd imagine this guy has got neighbours. Like, if you're a neighbour of this guy, like, it looks like that's a terrace house. I can see a driveway there as the lads are running away next door. Like, imagine you're living next door to this fella. Like, do you want that sort of thing actually going on within your community? And the only reason it's really going on, if this is all, like, say, organised drug crime related, if these lads are getting even with this fella because, you know, of some drug related crime that happened in the past, maybe robbing money, maybe robbing drugs, maybe attacking other members of their gang because of drugs and money. Do we want that out there? And all of that is there only because of drug prohibition. And you know, it really is. We look at alcohol prohibition. The mafia, they basically got out of alcohol prohibition because as soon as it was legalised and regulated, it was really hard for them to make the money that they were making. It was really hard for them to like move the alcohol that they were able to move during alcohol prohibition. So they had to diversify, get into other things. And that's the same thing that will happen with these organised crime gangs. They'll probably just take the money they've made over years in the drugs trade and probably start up maybe legit businesses in other places, maybe invest in legitimate businesses that are already up and running, maybe actually invest in cannabis clubs if that's something that they're interested in. But will they continue with the illegal trade? No, the money just won't be there for them unless policymakers absolutely F up like they're currently doing with alcohol and tobacco. I believe that what's going on at the moment, they're creating a black market for alcohol and tobacco by the taxes, the increase in prices they're putting on it. I believe they're killing the pub trade because of the cost of a pint these days. I've heard it numerous of times. You know, it's ridiculous the cost of going out. You know, for a couple of pints, people working their ass off. You know, the cost of living's absolutely exploding, and then your ability to actually go out and drink your woes away a little bit on the weekend, the only enjoyment you get, and they take that away from you again by increasing the cost of it. It's terrible. This is why we need to see consumers reflected within policy making more. And consumers know that what it's like to live on a below fucking living wage. Forgive my French there, don't curse a lot, but yeah, definitely have experience of living below living wage. Benny Boy, take what's happening out there. So it's the smell of ganja off you. Go follow Jesus. Puffing on super space Elvis. Oh yes, I've heard it being called nettles. So the devil's nettles or something like that. Some judge called it there one day. Heard it called all sorts of things over the years, alright. Mr. Finian says, probably much songs wrote about, alas, there is weed. Funny that the ones about weed are better. I was actually listening to a couple of parody songs there the other day with cannabis and stuff. What was it? The devil goes down to Georgia. Is it that fucking golden fiddle one? The Devil Goes to Jamaica, I believe, was the other version. Where the boys are smoking a bong and he's going to give him the bong made of gold. Or he's going to take his soul. Yeah, cannabis parodies are fairly funny, alright. And Blazing Star says in Scotland, the alcohol tax went up a few weeks ago. Yeah, as I said, they're fucking trying to take all this stuff away. They say it's for health reasons. But really, if it's for health reasons, why are they taking away, like trying to take away your ability to go out and enjoy a couple of pints where it's not hurting your pocket so much, where you can socialise with your community, with your friends, family maybe, again, without it hurting your pocket so much. They shouldn't be putting up the fucking tax of it. But they know, as people refer to them, the old reliables for the revenue collectors, for our tax collectors, because they know people are addicted, so to speak. Like, but as I just said, like, people like to go out and enjoy a pint or two at the weekend. Maybe not everybody is going to smash back 10, 20 pints. Like, there's no reason to be putting the price up as much as they are, because it's just killing people's ability to go out and socialise, and that's fairly important for our health. Like, I know if I was to go out, like, I wouldn't be drinking alcohol, but even the price of fucking a Coke these days is ridiculous. Not that I'd be drinking Coke, like, but the Fanta, I'd like to get a Club Orange actually and a lemon. I'm making a rock shandy, but a fucking rock shandy nearly costs more than a pint. And that's mad, isn't it? Depending on where you go, like, a rock shandy can actually cost more than a pint. A pint might be like €6 or something, but some places there to be like $3.50 for a bottle of Club Orange, and then you have to take a bottle the bottle of Club Lemon, mix them together, like, and you're talking like fucking €7. Mad. Benny Boyntech says, why is names the cause of everything that it is? Blazing Star says, from 50 pence a unit to 65 pence, a 30% rise. 10-pack of Stella went from 10.13 to 13.14 now in Aldi. Ridiculous. Bogwan Son, like, that extra increase there, £3 increase, a £3 and 1 pence increase. Like, what's that? That could be our rashers. Like, you could be without rashers, and we'd be heartbroken if we were out of rashers, wouldn't we? Shout out against the rashers. But like, yeah, what's £3 going to get you in your shop that weekend? And if, like, having a 10-pack of Stella was your weekend enjoyment, like, you're not going to give up your weekend enjoyment. You're more than likely going to give up, your pack of rashers. You're like, right, I'll do without my pack of rashers. Or maybe you'll give up your chocolate digestives. Maybe they're easier to sacrifice. But you know what I mean? They don't really look at that, say for health reasons, but that's not helping you health-wise. Do you feel any healthier because you have to pay £3 extra for your 10-pack of Stella? I'd imagine not. Maybe your pocket feels a bit lighter. Feels like you've lost weight. Mr. Finian says, check out the Puppets version of that song, Martin. I will indeed. I actually seen that up there as I went in the search recommendation, but I didn't actually click into it. I thought one version of the devil playing the fiddle was kind of enough. I'll certainly go back and check out the Puppets. Or isn't it the Muppets? Not the Puppets, the Muppets. Are we being politically correct here now, John, calling them the Puppets? Bogwan Son says, not the same since sweeteners need the real sugar. Yeah, that's true, alright. Yeah, a lot of the places now only, like, have the sugar-free versions, like, with the sweeteners. It's quite hard actually to get these the actual real version. Like, especially, like, I went to the cinema now a couple of times with ourselves, and not everything is sugar free at the cinema. Yeah, but we still love you, John. We won't judge you. Blazing Star says, buy cheaper munchies. Sure, what if you're already buying the Aldi brand? or the little brand. You know, you're already on the cheapest of the cheap, and next they're hitting you with a £3 increase in your Stella. Stella. Sorry, couldn't help it. That movie, that Stella reference just comes to mind. Rusty Nails says, slowly eroding our sense of freedom. Even trying to keep a car on the roads is expensive now. Never mind getting out at the weekend for some crack. Yeah, actually, I heard there recently that the cost of the NCT is increasing. The price of the NCT has gone up. Again, I'm off the road myself because of the epilepsy of another, 10 months or something like that to go. But yeah, so I'm kind of out of the loop when it comes to the cost of keeping the car on the road. But I certainly know how much it was before, and it wasn't cheap. Cost of petrol, is absolutely ridiculous. Road tax, mad. Mr. Finnegan says Snickers and Aldi's. Never, boy. We go for the real one, boy. It's not a Snickers if it's not a real one. But yeah, I've definitely had my fair share of those knockoff Aldi ones. What's the fake penguin bars? Those ones, yeah, I've had those from time to time. Can't even think what they're called there now. The ice bars or something like that. Shit, man. You might know, John. Yeah, Bobby's saying it there. Petrol's crazy expensive. And apparently, did we see an increase there recently over the crap going on over in the Middle East? Did the boys not hit some British oil ship or something like that? Mad. Hopefully things going to escalate any further over there. Not because my petrol's getting more expensive, but, because, heck, we could do with a bit of world peace. Let's continue with a little bit of what's lined up there within the news. As I said, I have a couple of more reasons there as to why we should hopefully see those policy changes enacted sooner rather than later. But here we see a man maybe seeing an opportunity, desperate. I suppose the overinflated value of cannabis being displayed by the media on a daily basis, every day kind of seeing within the media reports there of a kilo of cannabis, €20,000, 10 kilos of cannabis, €200,000, and then thinking after a while, maybe, hey, I can grow a bit of cannabis there. I could grow a bit of cannabis. I could easily grow a couple of kilos there in my upstairs space. Maybe I've a spare house there that I'm renting. But it's actually easier just to grow a bit of cannabis inside there and make even more money. Every 3 months I'm able to maybe make 40, 60,000 euro there off of this house that I'm renting. Maybe the person is down and out in their luck, desperate, has a mortgage to pay. So that's what it says there within this article. But I can't help but point out that the guards, man, they're mad to point out like sophisticated cannabis grow house. Like it's in the opening sentence, like. So a Dublin man who set up a sophisticated cannabis grow house has been jailed for 4 years. 4 years, like. So the guy named here, Gary Gibson, 39 years of age, gives his address above in Dublin 24. He pleaded guilty to the possession of cannabis for sale or supply on May 3rd, 2023 at another address in Tala. He has no previous convictions. So again, a guy just seen an opportunity, possibly because, again, the way in which the overinflated price of cannabis is displayed by the media on a daily basis. Like if you have a kilo of cannabis, there's no way you're actually getting a 20,000 for it unless you sell it gram for gram. You're not going to do it gram for gram. Like you're not going to go, and are you actually going to charge people €20 a gram? Like seriously, €20 a gram? Like is that what? Like no way, you wouldn't do that. Like maybe if you're selling it in grams, like, but somebody's going to want a 50 bag off you. That's 3.5 grams. And like if you get to know people, they might want a bit of a discount off you and the 50 bag. I'm buying it off you for ages, boy. Come on, throw us 4 grams there instead of the 3.5, like for the 50. Come on, boy. But anyhow, so yeah, overinflated valuation on the price of cannabis, possibly tempting this person to convert what was once maybe a rented house that he was renting. Because it says that he was living at another house with his wife, and this was another house that he owned. It says that he was under financial pressure because of, at the time, due to his mortgage payments increasing, and his acceptance of his involvement assisted the investigation. Judge Duffy accepted that this was way out of character for Gibson, but said he had the wherewithal to know better than to get involved in such an offence. Pointed out about the evidence here that she further accepted evidence that he no longer takes cannabis, but said while he was not at the highest level of the operation, he was not a ghillie either, and that he engaged in the offence for profit. Judge Duffy set a headline sentence of 7.5 years before actually imposing a 5-year sentence. So I said above he got a 4-year sentence. He actually got a 5-year sentence, but the final year was suspended. And sometimes this final year could be suspended for 2 years. So instead of a 5-year sentence, the person actually could end up serving a 6-year sentence, but the final 2 are actually served outside the suspended part. It could be suspended for longer than what the actual sentence initially imposed is for. So just keep that in mind too. Again, as it says, of the term on strict conditions. So those strict conditions could be, when it's suspended, it could be suspended for 2 years. The court heard that when the Gardaí searched the property, they found the attic and upper floor had been converted into a cannabis grow house. So easily producing, what would you say, an entire upstairs, I don't know, is it a 3-4 bedroom house? Let's just say it's a 3-bedroom house. Let's say 15 cannabis plants per room, probably getting about 2 to 3 kilos per room, 6 kilos every 3 months, let's say. If you were harvesting every 3 months, 6 kilos. If you were selling it by the kilo, and it was good cannabis, you would probably get about 20,000 for 3 kilos. Would you get 20,000? Nah, you probably get 20 for maybe all 6, wouldn't you? A key? Yeah, you probably get 20,000 for all 6, but still, 3 months of work, you're getting what, about over 5 grand per month? Probably not going to get that. I found that the electricity had been bypassed also. So that's something to point out here, that there wasn't any actually cost except the initial expense of the equipment. They were after bypassing the electricity, which is, for anybody out there who grows, it's a massive expense. 50 cannabis plants were found on the property. So there you go, 50 cannabis plants worth around €800 each, the value of the plants at. So the total value here was €28,149, and the total value of the drugs seized was €68,149. As I said, be lucky probably to get 20,000 for the harvest after 3 months. An investigating Garda told the prosecuting that the setup was sophisticated. Gibson was arrested after his vehicle was stopped a short time later, and during an interview he was accepted. He owned a house and lived with his partner at another address. Gibson outlined that he is working but had previously injured his arm and couldn't work for a time. In a prepared statement, the Gardaí took responsibility for the cannabis, outlining he was in mortgage arrears and didn't see another way out. He admitted he bypassed the electricity and set out the grow house. And to tell you how dangerous that actually is, the guards actually had to call out off the search of the house because of the electricity being bypassed. So that's another important thing to point out, the danger of that. Again, if they have neighbours, the danger of a fire breaking out, it's quite high. So that's an important thing to point out. It was further agreed that Gibson told Gardaí that there had already been 2 or 3 cultivation cycles in the house. So he had admitted the fact that there was 2 or 3 cycles of cultivation through the house. So possibly after making maybe 20 grand a roll. So nice bit of money made for the time and effort put in, but unfortunately, look, 4 years, 5 years of your life is just not worth it, really. Later, Mr. Berry told the courts his client was concerned admitting to a drug addiction would make his situation worse. So when he was with the guards giving an interview, he didn't want to actually admit that he had a drug addiction. because he was afraid. But I believe he might have been convinced by his solicitor, his legal representative, that, hey, come here, admit there that you have a drug addiction and we'll get a bit of leniency by the court. I potentially think that's something that might have happened here, more than, like, my skeptical hippo eyes are definitely on in this situation, because, like, drug addiction does it really play a part in a person being in mortgage arrears and setting up a grow room? Like, no, it doesn't. Like, to be fair, if you're truly in drug addiction, you'll be probably unable to keep your shit together to be able to actually grow and harvest the plants, and all of that stuff. At least that's my feeling and opinion on the matter anyway. I would believe it's probably something that the legal team gave him advice to do for a stronger defence. The Garda agreed that there was an early guilty plea which was of benefit to the prosecution, and a number of references and other documents were handed to the court. Mr. Berry acknowledged his client acted as he did for profit, but said he was in mortgage arrears and facing increased repayments. He asked the court to consider this at the lower end of the scale in relation to the production and distribution of drugs. Gibson started to use drugs after his mother's death in 2016, but has made efforts to deal with his addiction. Urine analysis was also provided to the court, so I'd imagine they're providing a clean urine analysis which hasn't tested positive basically for drugs. But again, using the, like, not to dismiss it, but blaming his mother's death back in 2016 for a drug addiction. Like, unless there's other drugs, like, I'm assuming that they're referring to cannabis and addiction to cannabis. Like, I just can't see it be really a part of it. Maybe that's why he hurt his hand. He was consuming too much cannabis, hurt his hand at work. Like, but come on, really, all that's going to happen if you consume too much cannabis is your tolerance is going to go up and you're not really going to get that high anymore. That's about it. Like, I don't know. I definitely call BS on that part anyway of the story. But again, people like him, what are we going to do in time to come? Like, if we are to end cannabis prohibition in the next couple of months or within the next year, what are we going to do with people like him in prison? Do we keep him there? Like, again, they said he's at the lower end of the scale. He's not really a threat to anybody out there in society. He was desperate. He's seen an opportunity. There was no real, like, danger to anybody except by the bypassing of the electricity. That's a danger. But again, it's not because of drugs. I don't blame drug addiction. I don't blame anything other than drug prohibition. That's the only reason why the guy did what he did. Drug prohibition. If we can end drug prohibition, we won't have people out there putting people at risk because of the bypassing of electricity. People who grow cannabis will be just providing a positive thing for the community at large. Society will benefit overall by the ending of cannabis prohibition, by the allowance of people being able to grow their own cannabis, to share it, to thrive within communities. I know many people out there growing cannabis now illegally and they're paying their electricity. None of them that I am aware of anyway are bypassing their electricity for their grows. From all I know, that happens for people who are doing it large scale for profit motives, who don't really have, I would just say, consideration for people within the community. They're thinking about one thing alone: making money. But anyhow, what's been said there in the hot box, Mr. Finnegan? What's the story with those Snickers anyway? You have me wanting one now, but I think I might take the dogs for a walk to the garage and get me a Snickers. Blazing Stars says, who does the judge buy his off? He's getting ripped off. Yeah, that's right. 20k key. Joke by, isn't it? Blazing Stars says, you can engage in the offence if it's not for profit, then according to that judge. Well, that's the approach that they're taking with the recommendations by the Oireachtas committee there on the changes to be made for drug policy, that maybe we'll explore a not-for-profit cannabis model, cannabis social club model. But yeah, that was my plan all along. I would have loved if it was possible to have got a not-for-profit club up and running. One where the growers, members were all willing to actually take responsibility for the club, the cannabis that's been grown and distributed, that when or if it was to ever be busted, that each and every member, all the growers, the organisers would all actually take responsibility for it, all having to be then taken to court for it, and be able to prove that, hey, this was not for profit, that the members, the money they contributed, it covered a wage for the growers, the time they actually contributed to growing the cannabis, and that any profit that was actually produced went back into the club, according to the not-for-profit model, you know, and actually to test that within the courts, you know, as you just said, you know, by the judge's statement there, like a not-for-profit would have been maybe seen differently by the court, by the legal system. I would have loved to have tested that out. It's still a possibility. Anybody out there who has got, you know, the resources to get that up and running. I certainly know enough people out there to get the members anyway. Willing though to take that stand in the legal system. Maybe I know less people there, but maybe in this current climate now, maybe the people I know, maybe more of them actually would be willing to take that stand and face a judge, you know. But who knows? Maybe we don't have to do it. Let's hope. What have I missed? Seals. That's the one, John. Seals. They're not penguins. They're seals. The mint ones. Are the ice ones, ice mountains or whatever they're called. They're the chocolate ones that have mint in the middle. But the seals, yeah, man, the seals they're not far off the penguins. Probably just a little bit a little less good. But man, I don't know if you do this, John. But this is definitely for anybody out there who likes a cup of tea and dipping biscuits into it. I love my chocolate digestives with a cup of tea. But if you've not already done this, and like, this is what I'm actually going to do, because I do think there's a couple of seal bears inside. But you bite off a corner, opposite corners of the seal bear or penguin bear, you know, of the top and bottom, diagonally, and then you use it like a straw. And you need a spoon on standby for this as well, guys, in the cup already. Because potentially, you know, it can get like, and it's lovely when you suck the tea up and it's nice and hot. Not too hot that you burn yourself. Don't be coming back and blaming me for you burning yourself. But it makes the bear all nice and soggy from the inside out. So it's nice and crunchy still on the outside, but you know that inner chocolate bit, that all gets like really melty, and then you bite into it and it's got the tea. And if you make a nice cup of tea like I do with a nice bit of honey in there, it's just absolutely stunner heaven. If you're into that sort of thing. So there you go, Johnny Boy. I don't know if you already do that, but that's definitely something I enjoy doing. I've tried it with a couple of other things then. I've gotten adventurous with it over the years, but yeah, nothing beats the penguin bear or the seal bear for that. Twix is good, actually. Yeah, Twix was one of the good ones as well. Those Rocky Road bears, is it? The caramel one is actually surprisingly good. I'm not too sure what other ones were really good now, but definitely those ones. Anybody else out there familiar with that? Using chocolate bars, dipping digestives into the cup of tea. What's going on out there? They're on about Johnny's Ninja Skills. Blazing Stairs says, Martin, a carbon reduction crop is a good angle too. That's true. Hemp is definitely a good one for that. And it's also a good cleanser of the environment. If a place has been polluted by heavy metals and other toxins, that plant is actually good for removing them from the environment. Someone saying Kit Kats there. Mark saying Kit Kat. Kit Kat rules for sweet tea all night. Yeah, Kit Kats were good, all right, but they weren't very good for the using it as a straw. I don't know why. They were nice, but they didn't have the crunch. That's what they missed. That's what I got with the Kit Kat. Like, you couldn't really suck a lot of tea up through it before it got like too soggy on the inside. It lost all its crunch. You needed that crunch to remain. Oh, the chunky one. I don't think I've used the chunky actually. There we go. We're getting really into it now, guys. Not-for-profit patients first approach, please. Yeah, the not-for-profit is definitely a good model for supporting patients, because I've seen models out there, not-for-profit, where the profit actually, where the members are kind of separated in a sense, where people are like not patients and patients, and the not patients, their purchasing of cannabis helps maybe offset the cost of cannabis for the patients. Um, I like those models. I think there's many models actually that could be explored there that include patients too. But also, look, we have a medical card here in Ireland. There's no reason why cannabis shouldn't be included on a medical card for people who need it for chronic pain and all of that stuff as well. What do you think, guys? Do you think you'll ever actually see cannabis included as a medicine on the medical card? Wonder what you think on that one. Like, we kind of see it on a medical cannabis access program, but that doesn't, like, that's not the medical card. I think that's like separate to it. Um, and then the license, the ministerial license, that's excluded from it. Even if you're qualifying for the medical card, I believe, and I'm open to correction here, but I do believe that it's actually excluded from the medical card payment scheme for patients. That's wrong. Bobby's getting his mind blown here. On our adventure, the adventureness of our tea and biscuits, yeah. Oh yes, that's another one actually. Club biscuits and snack bars. The purple one, yeah, the purple snack bar. Those are also amazing. But yeah, the club ones, they're decent. Oh yes, can't believe I forgot those ones. So that's the purple snack bar, guys. For anybody out there wanting to try this out, and the club milks, yeah, the club milks, kind of golden yellow wrapper. Mark Anthony says was disgusted. They only had the Reese's cups and no bears when I went for the munchies earlier. Ah, Reese's cups are good though. I like the Reese's cups. Really tasty. Like, can't beat that peanut butter filling. Like probably no good feel. Like, but I'm just gonna imagine. Look, it's got a bit of peanut butter in there. It's got to be like some little bit of percentage healthy. Let's ignore the sugar and all the other crap. Uh, Mr. Finian says, hus a politician at Martin. Probably getting an envelope from Twix. Gold bars, man. Gold bars are just good by their own. I don't think I've actually had them with a cup of tea. As in, I use it as a straw, but man, gold bars, they're dangerous. I've often sat down and demolished the entire pack of gold bars in an evening by myself. Oh, if only they were available locally. You have to get down to like the deals. The deals are the supermarket, like the Duns. I think I've seen them in Lidl's actually recently, those gold bars. I'm only going through those places in my head now to think if any of them are actually open right now. Butterfingers, that's not something I'm familiar with. Maybe they're called something different there. But I don't, I'm not very familiar with Butterfingers. But like Butterfingers, I'm picturing like kind of a spongy type of a cake, isn't it? I've heard of Butterfingers. Blazing Star says Home Bargains is a full selection of Reese's. No, I'm avoiding that. Home Bargains anyway. Nice one for the heads up. I've been trying to get on a healthy buzz these days. I've been getting back into the daily exercising, to some degree. Some days I'm actually exercising. Other days I'm just getting out, having a good old walk, which is still counts as exercise. But I'm not really pushing it. Actually, I am. I'm pushing the buggy. So I'm technically pushing it. But yeah, definitely trying to get back into the healthy buzz. And with that being said, after kind of looking into it, we might get back into the mushroom business as well. Looking at the super fungi again, maybe, but expanding it, maybe get back into the superfoods too. Shout out to Joe Williams, buddy up there in Clarny, the guy who we were doing the Free Joe campaign to. Was out with him on his mum's birthday there recently, and yeah, he's got me really interested in superfoods again. It's been a while since had a good conversation about the old superfoods. Again, it's just kind of an all-encompassing name for foods that are just really good for you. Again, an example, cacao. Cacao powder. Something I include in my coffee every day. Bobby says I'll post you something to the box. Nice one, Bobby. Look forward to seeing that there now in a minute. And John says Joe's a legend. He is indeed, man, and his family as well. Like, you know, they're all really cool too. I actually got to meet Joe's son, and I was shocked when I actually seen him. I actually thought it was one of Joe's buddies. He's like, he looks as old as Joe. You know, Joe is a pure baby face. And it's gas. Like, you're looking at Joe and his young fella, and you're kind of thinking, like, oh, there's probably what, 5 or 6 years between you is there, thinking they're friends, but no. Right, do we have any more there that we want to talk about? Oh, we do indeed, actually. As I was talking there in the last case about your man being in prison, again, I just want to bring attention back to a case I covered there about, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we covered this case about a single mum who was being arrested here in Ireland. As it says here in this, she made an enormous error of judgment, if this refreshes your memory on the case, but it was a case of Elizabeth Locke, 56 years of age, caught by customs officials at Dublin Airport. She's been in custody here in Ireland since March of this year, because she got caught with, I think it was 30 vacuum packed bags of cannabis. They valued it at €270,000. Again, just remember how much I just ranted about the overinflation of the value of cannabis in that last article I covered. 270,000 they valued at her, massively overinflated. And this lady, single mum, hard working also, you know, she worked 3 jobs. There's record of this woman working 3 jobs a week to support her family, support her son through college, and she has no past criminal records. She was desperate. She was pop that up. She was potentially naive enough to be believing that she was transporting precious metals to avoid tax. She didn't think it was worth as much as what the guards are saying it was worth. She believed it was only maybe a couple of grand in tax avoidance that she was making, maybe 50 grand. Precious metals, it didn't feel that heavy to her. What was it, about 10 kilos, 270, so what's that, 14 kilos, just shy of 14 kilos, so it's not very heavy at all. 14 kilos, just think of 14 bags of sugar, 1 kilo bags of sugar. It's not very heavy at all. So she was naive enough to believe that she was transporting precious metals, avoiding a bit of tax. Again, no big deal to her. Doesn't see anybody being hurt, and she was getting 10 grand for it. At the time, she was down and out in her luck. It was after going through a bit of a hard time. I believe she was supporting her son through college. I believe she was suffering a little bit about her mental health, just trying to remember the story a little bit. And that's why she wasn't working at the time and why she was down and out in her luck and was desperate. She's still sitting in a prison here in Ireland, despite the fact of numerous committees now, the Justice Committee, the Oireachtas Committee, the Citizens Assembly, all being in favour of taking this health-led approach. Like, that's not good for that lady's health. Like, it's not good to be keeping her behind bars. It's not good. The criminals are able to prey on desperate individuals because of the overinflated value of cannabis. She was coming from a jurisdiction anyway where cannabis was legal, and had she known, she says, if it was cannabis in the bag, she wouldn't have even brought it, because she seen that as a bit more of a serious crime than, you know, tax avoidance. Again, they're bringing it from Canada to Ireland, because in Canada, like, what do you say? Like, Bobby, you might enlighten us there. Like, what's wholesale of a kilo going for over there between, you know, in New York and Canada? Like, is it about maybe $1,000, $2,000, $2,500 for a kilo? A kilo is what, 2.2 pounds? So what's £2 of cannabis these days costing you over there across the pond? But I'd imagine it's a lot less than what it's costing here, for sure. Otherwise, they wouldn't be wasting their time transporting her over here, going for all that freaking effort. Shiting on a book, what's happening? Happy Halloween. There you go. Probably 2 to 3K for something decent. So again, something decent. Keep in mind, like if you're over in the States and you're picking this up for yourself, like something decent, you have a bit more comeback on it. If they manage to get it from Canada to Ireland, like you're probably not getting the most decent of stuff, as in like quality grown cannabis. I'm not saying that it's going to be really bad quality. It's just you're not going to have as much of a comeback. So they're probably not even shipping the most decent of stuff. So yeah, 2 to 3K. You get her over here to Ireland, and they're going to move it for a lot more than that if it's just 1 kilo. And yeah, Canada is super cheap. Blazing Stairs says she should have claimed it was just personal. She's got bad, what is it, arthritis. Really bad arthritis there in the old ankle. Needed 14 kilos for personal use. Yeah, Bobby, I was talking to farmers, and the farmers down there in Cali, and apparently they were getting like almost less than 1 for a pound. So, or sorry, less than 1 for the kilo, as we were in Ireland at the time when we were talking. So we were talking about a kilo, and yeah, he was saying super cheap because the big producers coming in there, mass producing it, were killing the farmers, local growers who probably weren't growing it at scale and as efficiently maybe as these mass producers coming in, growing it under lights in these sterile climate controlled environments. So yeah, the farmers were getting fucking underpriced and displaced, is what I was hearing. That was over a year ago when I was hearing that too. I hope things have improved over there. Should reach out to that farmer buddy over there. Shout out to Martin O'Brien. I wonder, is there some distant relation there between yourself and Martin, Bobby? Bobby saying here the stuff I tried to chase would run 4 to 5K. There you go. A fair old bit. Other people then, sentencing, like there's one case here. This is a case that's ongoing at the moment. Is sentencing for a Cork man caught with a €3,000 worth of cannabis. Again, it's overvalued. This is €20 a gram when they're valuing this here, keep in mind. So the case dates back to February 2021. We're in 2024 now, guys. Like this is a case that's ongoing for over 3 years. So this individual had to live with the fucking anxiety of this hanging over his head for over 3 years. Gives his name, gives his address here. Based in Cork, he pleaded guilty to the charges, including possession of cannabis for sale and supply. He's said to have had one previous conviction dating back almost 10 years for drug dealing. The solicitor said he understands this is a very serious matter. The solicitor said that he had testimonials to hand in to the judge in respect of the defendant. Judge Mary Dorgan responded, I believe I was in front of her before. I'm not interested in reading the testimonials. The issue is a plea of guilty to a significant drugs matter. And yeah, I believe like she was referring also like to drugs as being like problematic and a serious matter when I was before. So since the day of the incident in February 2021, he did not come to the attention of Gardaí since. The defence solicitor said the defendant was heavily addicted at the time. Again, this is always applied an approach they take to trying to seek leniency, to seek, pity from the court. It goes on to say he had a significant pain from a spinal injury and he was smoking to ease the pain. So again, he's not addicted. He's using it for medical reasons. And since this, he has completely stopped. He cooperated fully. He had made full admissions. He said most of the cannabis was for himself. He did sell it to some friends to pay for his own use of cannabis. So again, like you see in this, as a patient selling off a bit of cannabis to cover his own use of cannabis, and he's using it for medical reasons. So what's wrong with that? Again, You know, he's trying to make his use of cannabis not actually cost him an arm and a leg, and it was benefiting him. I'd wonder now, actually, has him stopping his consumption of cannabis actually led to him taking up the consumption of some opiate-based painkillers to help with the pain from his spinal injury? I hope it's the case that his spinal injury actually isn't an injury anymore, and that the pain is subsided and is gone, and he doesn't need opiates. But if it is, it's unfortunate. And again, people like this guy, like, how is he going to respond to the changing of the law, the changing to how people like him are actually seen within society in time to come? You know, next year, and this guy is freaking addicted to some sort of opiate-based painkiller now. Is in a worse place than he would have ever been consuming cannabis to manage his pain. You know, it'd be interesting. Like, you know, it's just mad. It's an interesting one to think about. There was documentary evidence of clean urine test also to provided to the court. Judge Mary Dorgan said she would require a probation report to verify the steps have been taken by the accused to put his life on better footing, and sentencing was adjourned until January 7th for that purpose. So again, this is a similar approach taken by the Judge King in my case. My case has been adjourned until next month, November 27th. So November 27th, I'll be in for sentencing for the cultivation charges. I'm still waiting to actually meet the probation team to have the report on myself compiled, which is kind of it's a funny one, like, because it's just more reasons to why prohibition should end. The probation services here in Cork, from the lady I met that day in the court anyway, she said they're up the walls. She said don't expect to be contacted by us anyway any sooner than 2 weeks. She said we're up the walls, and it's going to be a while before we get in touch with you. So there you go. That's the is that the final one? Yeah, that's more or less the final one. There's another article here about Garda policies on illegal drugs evolved more humane approach to users. But then when you actually read into the article, which is based on contributions to that recent Oireachtas committee that just published a report that we covered at the start of the news. But within this, they talk about some figures, some data that was provided to the committee. Here it is. So chair of the committee, Gina Kenny TD, asked about official figures on the adult caution scheme for cannabis possession, which he said showed a very imbalanced picture in relation to the numbers given, a caution, and those prosecuted. So again, just to remind people that there is an adult caution scheme introduced into Ireland where if you're caught with a small amount of drugs, I don't know, is it just cannabis? I think it's drugs, that you can receive a caution. I don't know that they have to actually bring you back to the guard station or what to give you the caution, or can you be, I think you can be given it at the side of the road. But yeah, that's the adult caution scheme, but you cannot get it if you like have previous convictions, if you're refusing to, admit to the crime when you get caught. Like if you're saying, no, it's not cannabis or whatever the case may be. So if you're refusing to admit you're guilty there at the side of the road, then you don't qualify for it too. But it says here the figures show that 5,139 people were given a caution between December 2020 and February 2024, compared to 17,125 people being prosecuted. So I believe that's just for cannabis. 5,139 people were given the adult caution between, what was that, like just over a 3-year period, 3 years, 3 months, and 17,125 people were prosecuted for cannabis. Detective Chief Superintendent Seamus Boland of DOCB said that there was some misunderstandings around the data, and said his analysis showed that of the 20,000 people detected in possession of cannabis between the dates listed, 2/3, 13,400, did not meet the criteria for the caution scheme. So most likely those people were being targeted because they were known to the guards, known to be in possession of cannabis, so they were easy targets, low-hanging fruit. They said they'd catch them. And why they do this is they actually try to use these people as stepping stones to try to reach up the ladder, to try to get somebody higher up within the black market kind of world. You know, dealers, large dealers and what have you. So that's what they do. They target people that are known to them for carrying drugs, and then once they have them, they kind of put pressure on them. Oh yeah, if you help us, we can make this go away. We won't process your file, is kind of what they say. I've talked to people who've heard that. I've heard that myself when I was brought in to the guards many years ago when I was younger. More intimidable. That's the important thing to remember here. Like these guards, they know that you're more intimidable when you're younger. Because they never done that to me when I was a bit older. Never offered me, the opportunity to rat on your dealer. They offered me that when I was younger, when I was like 17, 18, 19, 20 even. They were definitely offering you that opportunity. In one situation, they actually knew my uncle was a dealer. They stopped me and my cousin. We were going down to the local snooker place. My cousin Ozzy, who's unfortunately fucking committed suicide since. But at the time, we were just after parking up outside of Sheila's hostel. We were just skinning up. We were just skinning up to walk down the road, smoke our doobs before we got into the Vic, to go up and play a couple of rounds of snooker. And the cops just walked up on us. There were two undercover detectives. They caught us off guard. I was just back from Amsterdam at the time, actually. I was gutted because in the car at the time I had just brought up the weed that I brought back from Amsterdam, the little bit of hash I brought back from Amsterdam, because I wanted to bring some up to Willie, who unfortunately isn't alive now today either. But he was big into his hash. But they caught us with that, and they brought us back to the station, and they brought us back and they separated us. They knew my cousin. They kind of knew me. These guards didn't know me, but I was known to the guards at large, I suppose. But once they put me into the pulse system, I suppose, once I got back to the station, they brought us in. They strip searched me. Keep in mind, I was only 18 at the time. They strip searched me in the station. Once I was back, when I was back in the interview room, whatever it was, that's when they kind of said it to me. We know your uncle's dealing. We know your uncle gave you this or whatever. And I was like, my uncle didn't give me this. And it was funny at the time, because when I think of what I actually admitted to, because I said to him, I goes, if you look at those bags, I said, those bags came from Amsterdam. I goes, I brought that back from Amsterdam with me, because that's all I had on me was the nodges from Amsterdam. I had 3 little baggies with about a gram in each of different weeds. I then about another 3 baggies, I suppose, of about maybe a gram or so of hash in them. And I was like, those all came back from Amsterdam. I brought them back there recently. My uncle didn't sell me anything. I don't know what you're on about. I goes, my uncle doesn't sell hash at all, or sell drugs, because that's what they were saying. Oh, we know your uncle sells drugs. My uncle sold hash. That's all my uncle bloody sold. At least I don't know of him selling anything other than hash. I used to love him cutting the soap bar, being up there when he used to cut the soap bar, because he put it into the oven to soften her up, and he had this big fucking massive machete, and he'd use that then to cut her up into the ounces and things. Happy days. But yeah, they picked on us because we were more intimidable. But yeah, that they made that offer. Then, ratting your uncle, tell us when he's going to have some drugs there, and we can come up, make the raid, catch him with some stuff, and we'll make this go away for you. Scumbags. Horrible thing to do, isn't it? Preying upon young, intimidable individuals, trying to make them ratting their friends' family. I didn't anyway. But anyway, it goes on to say that this could have been because they either denied the offence, did not wish to be cautioned, had multiple previous offences, had already received a caution, or also faced a drug supply or other offence along with the possession charge. So that's why the 2/3 apparently did not meet the criteria for the caution scheme. So that's mad. That's only cannabis again, keep in mind, almost 20,000 people, or is it more than 20,000 people in the space of 3 years, 3 months. Imagine if all of those people just at once stood up and said, no, this is wrong, we shouldn't be criminalised, rather than going down the road, oh, Judge, I was addicted. Please feel sorry for me, Judge. Maybe they really are. Like, again, I don't want to dismiss anybody's real addiction out there, but, Skeptical Hippos for many, many of those stories. It says of the rest, 5,000 people did receive a caution. He said this left only 1,500 people who did not receive a caution, adding there could be a valid reason for that also. Said earlier the committee heard calls for an independent inspector for addiction services, similar with systems operating across the health system, Peter Kelly, Assistant Professor of the Mental Health Nursing at Trinity College Dublin, said it was crazy that there was no such inspector, and that's within the prison services, I believe, that he's calling for that inspector, but I could be wrong. That could be just an inspector overseeing all of the addiction services. It says we have an inspectorate for other marginalised groups, but drug users are not worthy of independent inspection, he told members. He said that this would help address the problems of trauma among users and stigma they face, including from professionals in the services. So yeah, that's an inspectorate over all the services. He said the Mental Health Commission had led to transformational change in the culture of mental health services. And he also supported calls from fellow Trinity nursing academic Barry McBrien for nurses to be allowed to prescribe methadone. Because currently I believe it's only doctors are able to prescribe it, but nurses should be able to as well. It's been called for here. Professor Catherine Kumsky, attached to the School of Nursing at Trinity, urged the committee to tackle stigma around drug use, to push for progressive drug policies and to bring back independent research. She called on members to tackle decriminalisation, adding she was not telling them to decriminalise, but said that research indicated there is not a relationship between drug laws and the usage of cannabis among young people. And basically what she's saying there is in places where cannabis is being decriminalised or legalised, the overall use of cannabis among young people has not really gone up, and any real increases in usage among young people is probably because they're actually more comfortable with admitting to using cannabis because now of the laws changing, or from it not being seen as a criminal behaviour, something worthy of being in serious trouble. So any real increase in the rate of use among young people in places where the laws have changed could potentially be associated with that. Again, I don't believe that's something that's surveyed for. It'd be great if in these surveys among young people, if they actually ask that, do you feel more comfortable now actually revealing that you used cannabis as a young person, as a minor, or are actively using it as a minor, because the law has changed, So there you go. That is the end of all of the 420 news. And we just missed the last 420 news actually in the previous places where it was 420. Where was it just 420? In those places, Maltazan, Calgary. All the way down there. Alberta. In a few places anyway over there. Not here, unfortunately. What are we rolling up to? Jeez, we're a late one here this evening. Rolling up on 20 past 11 here in the Emerald Isle. And I still got 28 of you absolutely amazing people out there in the audience. 29 actually, including the one over there on Twitch. Shout out to whoever is over on Twitch. Who's over on Twitch? Give a shout out in the hot box. But yeah, guys, you're absolutely amazing. Let's see what you've been saying there for the last couple of minutes while I've been waffling on with the last couple of articles. Bobby O'Brien says, I'm thinking of a Kit Kat straw and some cold milk. Oh, there's an interesting one, Bobby, actually. Cold milk. Oh, that would retain the crunchiness of the Kit Kat while also adding that, like, fucking nice cold milk taste, like, the creaminess. I don't know, do you get that over there in America in your milk? I wouldn't mind tasting some American milk actually to see how different it is to Irish. But yeah, we get that full fat milk here. That and a Kit Kat, that could be good. We got milk. I think I got Kit Kats. Expect an update there later on in the hot box anyway, Bobby. I've got so many ideas from you amazing people on munchies. Hopefully my penguin or seal tip there has helped somebody out there this evening. Anybody else's comments? Bobby O'Brien says, oh yeah, about the 1K. Sorry, read that one already. Big Buds Bobby strikes again, says Mark. Blazing Stars says, wee while ago here in the news, Guycock growing 80 plants and bypassing electricity. He got 180 hours community service. That's nuts. Are you over in the UK by any chance? Or was that here in Ireland? Mad difference is he admitted it. Mark Anthony saying, your love isn't free, Mr. Finnegan. You into that now, Mr. Finnegan? You are? Blazing Stars, I think if you it says I think if you admit it, you get a slap on the wrist. And Martin, he says, Martin, your case is going to set a precedent. I hope so. I really do. That was my hope, my intention all along. Look, I'm going to exercise my rights. I do feel like they've been violated and violated for a very long time. It never sat well with me on that first occasion when I got stopped and searched at the side of the road up outside of the airport. I'll never forget it. Sitting in the car with my girlfriend at the time. I believe it was early enough into the pregnancy. I can't remember if she knew she was pregnant at the time, or if she was pregnant and we were kind of still like soon to find out. But anyhow, we got searched and the cops were fecking douches, to be fair, like, and that's putting it politely. I admitted to having like cannabis in the car because look, they said they were going to search the car anyway. I didn't see fecking a big deal about it. Like, it was a nudge. It was less than a quarter inside in this little silver tin I had that had a little cannabis leaf engraved onto the front of it. And I gave it to him. I goes, look, that's all that's in the car. There's fecking a nudge there. That's it. He goes, what were you doing? I goes, look, we were up watching the airplanes land. Just me and my girlfriend. I goes, so, kind of just chilling. You know what you do with your girlfriend when you're up chilling at spots like that. You're smooching and getting close to each other and enjoying each other's company. But yeah, they proceeded anyway to get both of us out of the car. They searched us at the side of the road up there late at night. And then they went and emptied my entire glove box. They emptied the little thing at the center console thing, and they left everything then on the floor. They found nothing else in the car. All they got was the nudge. They went and questioned me. They took the report, and that was the first time I ever got caught with a bit of hash. And then I got harassed then for ages afterwards. Like, but it was such a negative experience that one time that night that when I got home afterwards, I went home and I started looking up the law she quoted to me, the law that they're now actually repealing, the Misuse of Drugs Act, Section 3 in 1977. You know, that one, they're now actually calling on the report. The recommendation was for them to repeal that. That's what they quoted to me that evening. I went home and I studied that. I read that thing fucking a couple of hundred times forwards, backwards, and I then went and started looking at our constitution. I was like, no, this is definitely violating our constitution. It's not in line with it. I have a couple of constitutional rights that are being violated. Right to privacy, right to freedom of travel, and a couple of others there. Freedom health is one within it. But yeah, that was always my intention anyway. As I was saying, sorry, going off on a bit of a rant there. We have a second doob here to spark up. We definitely won't finish this before we sign off and say goodbye to all you amazing people, but we'll definitely spark it up and enjoy a little bit of it with you. I think the next 420 is in half an hour, is it? No, it's 48 minutes away. I thought it was going to be less than less than the hour, and I would have hung around for you, or less than the half hour. Daily inspiration over here on the 420 World Clock. It's a quote from Zen Quotes. It's important to make sure that we're talking with each other in a way that heals. All right. Next one is life has no limitations except the ones you make. I prefer that one. Life has no limitations except the one you make. And it's fucking sort of true, man. It's, at least in my experience anyway, that's definitely been very true. A lot of the barriers that I've had to overcome were barriers I put in place. I'd be curious how popular Stoicism actually is among the cannabis consuming community. I would feel like Stoicism, that Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, I would imagine that's something popular among cannabis consumers, but I could be totally wrong there. But I would imagine if you started explaining some of the Stoic quotes, beliefs, the system there that's within it, a lot of them would be like, oh yeah, that's definitely something I could agree with, get in line with, get behind. Rusty Nail, you just blew my mind here, right? Champs with tea. You just blew my mind. Mr. Wes, you shouldn't have. Absolute legend. Nice one. Legend. Actually, only had to pay the Streamlabs there the other day. Funds were running low, so I was happy to be able to get it covered there, to be able to go live with yourselves. But a big shout out to the people on the Patreon as well. There's a couple of people over there subscribed to the Patreon, and they've been subscribed for quite some time. Absolutely amazing people. I think there's like €18 comes in there on a monthly basis from those subscribers. A couple of people have subscribed there recently since they allowed the free subscriber option over on Patreon as well. But to those people who do contribute and support the show on a regular basis, guys, you're absolute legends, amazing, because you help reduce that financial burden that does exist around keeping the lights on, the show running and all that stuff, getting the stream out there on the different platforms. So legends, everyone, thanks very much. It's always cost me to campaign, trips to Dublin, organising protests, taking time off of work and stuff like that. It still costs me, but to have that burden reduced in some shape or form is absolutely amazing. Nice one. Been in the Students for Sensible Drug Policy, and this is a shout out to anybody in college, guys. Set up a Students for Sensible Drug Policy Society. That thing was fucking amazing. Like we got access to funds there that we never had access to before. Like we were getting like fucking we got $2,000 1 year off of Students for Sensible Drug Policy, off the college, sorry, for Students for Sensible Drug Policy to hold a number of events across the year. Because at the start of the year you're able to put in a budget request for the 2 years and give an idea as to what the society is going to do. You get released the budget or in pieces and stuff like that. But we were approved for the $2,000 budget. I had planned some amazing events over the course of 2 years and over the course of a year. And we got approved that. That was absolutely amazing. Like we got to go to the music festivals to provide harm reduction services. We were basically providing drug welfare. I believe was the term for what we were doing, and we were able to get those expenses like flights, and obviously we were staying in tents, so we didn't have to pay for accommodation. But we were able to get our flights paid for by the college to cover the cost of us travelling to it, which was absolutely amazing. Like, never had that kind of thing happen before. We were able to pay for travel expenses, accommodation for speakers to come over. We had the likes of Howard Marks. We had Professor Zhao Glau. We had, his name is eluding me now, but he was a police chief constable. Shout out to Cassidy Strugas if he was there, if he's out there in the hot box right now. But police chief constable, can't remember even his name, but we had him come over and he spoke in the city, I believe it was, for Support Don't Punish. I believe the cost of that were covered by the Students for Sensible Drug Policy, but yeah, we'd some amazing speakers come over anyway, and the cost covered by the college. Amazing events organised and ran Chief Wiggum. I think that was close anyway. Again, another doob of quick cert this evening as we wrap things up. Blazing Stars said, thinking alike. Nice one. In reference to the quote earlier, yeah. Mark's just rolling one now. What you rolling up, Mark? Was it yourself saying that you had the haze earlier? Brendan Norris says, bong's full. Mine's out of service at the moment, out of action. Downpipe broke there earlier. I was cleaning the thing. It was fucking long overdue. A good clean. I kept putting it off, and then I decided earlier, right, we'll get this done now. I have a nice clean bong for the stream this evening. Dropped the downpipe while cleaning it in the sink. I was given a little rub on the top with some rubbing alcohol soaked on a tissue, and it just slipped. I don't know if you know, but when you give glass a bit of a rubbing alcohol, it kind of gets a little bit slippery. And I slipped right out of my hands, and it only fell about like 3 inches, maybe like about 10 centimeters. And no, didn't survive. The bong is still on one piece, which is good. I can replace the downpipe, but it's out of action for a couple of days. So that's the reason behind the change here this evening. You had Jesus. Bobby says my daughter has taken over my Martin's World hoodie. You know what? I actually had on the original one there the other day. The original one is well worn. You can barely see the Martin's World logo on it now. It's like well faded. But I just said, feck it, I was wearing a grey pants that day. And I was going out for a walk with the kids anyway. I was going to be pushing the buggy. Had the hat on. Said, feck it, I'll throw on the hoodie as well. And it's funny, you know, I'm walking down the road with this hat, and I don't know if you can see, but like there's a cannabis leaf that's like green screened out right now. But people look at it like I'm walking down the street, and like I've walked down the street now for a while, and I've done it for a good while without the hat because obviously it's warm, but it's getting colder now, so I'm keeping me out cown a bit nice and cozy. So I'm wearing this going down, and there's a lot more people looking at me now, and looking at my head, looking up at the hat, like and catching their eye, because of the cannabis leaf up there. And like I'm always a guy when I'm walking down the street, as I pass people, I'm that weirdo who kind of looks like smiles and says hi to people. You know, I wish them good afternoon, good day, good morning, whatever. Just as you're walking by, just being friendly, polite, sharing a smile. Smiles are infectious, so I try to do that. Try to be a bit more of a positive inspiration just in people's lives. If I can just make a person smile by smiling at them, happy fucking days, boy. If that's the only good thing I do that day, that's fucking a good enough old day. But anyhow, yeah, I definitely noticed that people are looking at the hat more, and some of them are kind of like judgmentalized. You kind of know when a person is looking at you, and it's like it's not a positive look. They're not giving you like a stare, or like an angry look, but it's just kind of like, oh, druggy, you know, look at him with the cannabis leaf or whatever, you know. It's just one of those eyes. You got a couple of other people who are like, oh, nice hat, love it. Or if one or two people actually have been like, oh, yeah, Martin, boy, other things, love the show, boy. Nice hat. But yeah, Blazing Stars 100%. Smile goes a long way. I always catch my kids and stuff like that, you know. It's like, oh, you dropped that there. And they're like, what did I drop? And I goes, your smile. And they instantly smile. I like doing little things like that. Mr. Finnegan says something had happened. Knew something had happened. Your Finnegan senses were tingling, were they? He's got his power back now, seeing as he's got his cannabis back. Mark says it's like the Angelas without the bells, Martin's World without the bong hit. And to be fair, you know what? I actually think I have a little bong around, like, you know, one of those little small ones. Was probably buried in there somewhere. Haven't had it out in quite some time, so that would take some commitment to go looking. John says, yeah, I get confused with normal people faces looks. It's just Tipperary people for you, John. So, whoop, drop my book. Oh, good. Bobby says, I always told my guys on the phones to answer with a smile. It is impossible to sound like an asshole if you have answer the phone smiling. You know what, Bobby? I've actually heard that one before too. That people answering the phones, yeah, should answer with a smile. Answer it with a smile makes it easier to have a more positive interaction with the person on the other side of the phone. It's not that they see the smile, but yeah, like John sensed there that there was something wrong, that the bong was missing. The person on the other side of the phone could probably pick up the fact that, hey, that other person is smiling. So yeah, guys, any other crack with people out there? Mr. Finnegan asks, guess what strain I'm smoking? Is it Do You Want It or Not, John? Is it that one? I heard that's quite popular up there in Tipperary. It's been a while since I've had that one. Do you want it or not? That's something that we buy from time to time here in Ireland, Bobby, because it's illegal. I reckon that's what John has anyway. If I was a gambling man, that's what I'd be putting my money on right now. You know me too well, Mr. Condon, he says. Yeah, do you want it or not? Oh man. As I say, I'm so spoiled by the community, the local growers that are here in Cork, but are around the island of Ireland too. I do look forward to a time where we can get together, all of us, like we did there. How long ago was that down at Kyle's place? But that was a great get together. The second one was a little bit of a smaller group, but you know, any opportunity to get together with other members of the community is great. John, we'll have to sort out this fucking do you want it or not thing, by. You're gonna have to get into the digital age, by get online and start buying from people outside of Tipperary. I know cash is king and all, like, but it's hard to transact, over the web with cash. Yeah, Bobby grew up in that. He says, "Yeah, you're a long way from it now, Bobby. Though I imagine it's extinct over there. Really, is it?" Blazing Stars says, "Bobby, I don't answer scam calls." Yeah. So right, we're halfway through this one anyway. I'm gonna enjoy the rest of this with a cup of tea and some sweet treats when I get inside. Any of you beautiful people out there want to get in some final comments? The next seconds is definitely the time to do it. Oh god damn! I wish I had my bong here right now. I'm looking at this hash and really regretting the fact that I didn't sprinkle some into that doobie right now. And I don't have a bong to go in and hit it in. Oh man. I do have some pipes there though. Shout out to Monkey as well. I've got some of those Monkey pipes actually still around. And shout out to Gary. Gary, I've got an amazing grinder there. That Gary sent over. We're going to do a little competition over in the Hotbox and Telegram real soon. For that grinder. It's a really cool grinder that looks like a little biscuit tin. You know those butter biscuits. But yeah. So we'll do a little giveaway over on Telegram for that. We're just still trying to concoct how we'll give it away. I want to try to make it a little bit more fun and guess the number or something. Might try to make a little game of it. We're thinking, but we will do something soon anyway. Yeah, to all you beautiful people saying goodbye, guys. Nice one for your company this evening. You're all absolutely amazing people. I hope I didn't bore you. I hope I didn't rant too much. Hope I didn't laugh at my own jokes too much. Also, I get criticized for that by the kids too much. So then I try to make the worst jokes ever for them. I get killed by my second, the second in command there, the second oldest. I love cracking jokes with her, but they're the worst of jokes. Like the and the face she makes, oh, Dad, but you get a little smile out of her too at the same time, like Oh, great crack. It's a pity they grow up too quick, but you have to make the most of it. Make the feckin' most of it for anyone out there with little kids anyway. Shout out to Ted and expecting an incoming boy as well, Ted been arrives by treasure every second. Yeah, I'll bold face, says John. Well, peace out, guys. Keep her lit. Much love to you all. I do appreciate each and every one of each and every comment that comes in here throughout the show, guys. Wouldn't be possible to do this without you. So yeah, I think that's it. Farewell, Mr. Wes, Mad Dog, Mark, John, SG2, Bobby Blazing Stairs, anybody else out there who's commented in earlier, Shlán Gafol, Patrick, Shlánta, Shine in a Bucket, giving a one last drag for any stragglers out there. Warp Addict. There we go. I think we're getting all the stragglers there anyway. Guys, have a nice evening. Enjoy the rest of your week. And might catch you for an old stream over the weekend, possibly, but nothing scheduled as of yet. We'll see what happens. Peace. Oh, Barry. Barry getting in there. Last one. Toodaloo, Bar. Toodaloo. Oh, SL, go on. I'll give another one. SL, peace out, dude. Rusty Nails, go on. We're still here finishing the stoop. Just doing a bit of cleaning up before we shut it down.